Today's video will be an exploration of a question posed last episode. And that is, what if rhinoceros went extinct? In today's video, we will explore the consequences of each rhinoceros species going extinct, how likely it is to actually happen, and then I will briefly simplify my findings at the end and draw an overall conclusion. So let's start off with the most impressive species of rhinoceros, and by far the least likely to go extinct anytime soon, the white rhinoceros. The white rhinoceros is the largest and heaviest rhinoceros species by far, and it's an absolute giant, weighing up to a confirmed weight of 3,600 kilograms and possibly reaching a gigantic, though unconfirmed, 4,500 kilograms, which makes it the size of roughly a large female African elephant. Despite their name, the white rhinoceros is not actually white, and this is instead believed to be a mistranslation of the Dutch word for wide, reflecting its wide mouth, which actually distinguishes this species from the black rhinoceros. This species was actually thought to have been extinct around the 1890s thanks to poaching, before a very small population of around 100 individuals was found to be living in South Africa. And since then, immense conservation efforts have been made to help this species recover. From 100 individuals around 1890 to over 17,460 individuals in 2024. It is believed that poaching was a primary contributor to this animal's decline, and if it weren't for immense conservation efforts and stricter regulations on poaching, we would have definitely lost this species altogether. So, what would happen if we did indeed lose this species? Well, the white rhinoceros uses its short, muscular lips to graze on almost exclusively short grasses, which they prevent from growing too tall. Usually, when grasses grow too tall, they block out the sunlight for younger plants, such as tree saplings, which also rely on the sunlight for their continued survival and growth. Given that grass grows at a rate of roughly 0.1 inches or 2.5 millimeters daily, most tree saplings would likely be overtaken and snuffed out in just a couple of weeks, though it would take upwards of 50 years to eradicate most, if not all, trees on the African savanna. Without keystone species such as acacia trees, not only would there be next to zero shade on the African savannas, but the primary source of food for giraffes, elephants, and kudu antelope would also be gone, and these animals would find it at least a bit more challenging to survive without them. Without keystone species such as acacia trees, not only would there be next to zero shade on the African savannas, but the primary source of food for giraffes, elephants, and kudu antelope would also be gone, and these animals. Thankfully, with the conservation efforts made by those of the past, we are unlikely to lose the white rhinoceros anytime soon. And the same likely applies for the other species of African rhinoceros. The black rhinoceros is the other species of African rhinoceros, and no, it's not actually black, but rather a dark grey colour. Now, the black rhinoceros is listed as critically endangered and has been listed as such since 1996. Their population in 1900 was sitting at around 1 million individuals, which has since plummeted to only 70,000 in 1970 and 2,410 individuals in 1996, which is when it was listed as critically endangered. Thankfully, just like the white rhinoceros, the black rhinoceros has seen major conservation success, and in 2020, its population was counted at 5,630 individuals. And in 2024, its numbers were counted at 6,421 individuals. You see, just like how the white rhinoceros keeps grass at bay, the black rhinoceros helps saplings grow by dispersing seeds. So, both of these species are helping the rarer trees spread across a larger area. If the black rhinoceros somehow went extinct overnight, then the African savanna would once again be in peril, with very little shade and basically no food for the larger herbivores. Extinct, then the common hippopotamus would become the third largest land animal in Africa, and would possibly even benefit from longer grasses like they do in Colombia today. The greater one horned rhino, also known as the Indian rhino, is the largest Asian rhinoceros, weighing up to 3,000 kilograms. They are by far the most abundant Asian rhinoceros species. This species can be found in India, Nepal, and occasionally Bhutan, becoming extinct in Pakistan in 2019 when a captive male died. The species typically prefers forested areas, though occasionally they venture into grasslands in search of vegetation to graze on. This unfortunately puts them at risk of habitat destruction, which until recently has had them listed as endangered. In 1900, their population was estimated to be only around 100 individuals, which would put them as the third rarest rhinoceros species alive today. And if it weren't for conservation efforts, this would have actually happened. Thankfully, from conservation efforts and the banning of rhinoceros hunting, combined with their large population in national parks, the Indian rhinoceros population has grown from 100 in roughly 1900 to 4,018 individuals in 2024. If the Indian rhinoceros was to go extinct, this would have massive negative consequences on the Indian, Nepalese, and Bhutan ecosystems. This species is responsible for spreading the seeds of certain plant species across the rainforests and savannas that they live in, which helps to maintain and increase the plant and vegetation diversity. This not only benefits them, but it also benefits the entire ecosystem of southern Asia, as they indirectly support the populations of several deer and bovid species. Luckily, the extinction of the Indian rhinoceros is not likely to occur anytime soon, but rather unfortunately, that is the last time I will say this phrase for the whole video. By far the most cryptic and poorly studied species of rhinoceros is the Javan or lesser one horned rhinoceros, which can be found in only a single national park in Indonesia on the island of Java. Thanks to wide scale poaching and habitat destruction, this species range has decreased drastically for the past 3,000 years. Going extinct in India in the 1910s, in Malaysia by 1932, in Bangladesh by 1960, and across all of mainland Asia by the end of the Vietnamese War. As a result of their incredibly small population of less than 75 individuals remaining, many of their natural behaviours have essentially been bred out of them, as they can no longer be found in grasslands or upland forests. If this rhinoceros were to go extinct, then it would have a massive negative effect on local tourism, as without the rhinoceros in Oolong Kujon National Park, which is where they all live, then the national park would feel a lot emptier and just less worth visiting. This is actually very likely to occur, as for the past 4 years, 26 rhinoceros have been poached, and surveys on their population size are rarely conducted, so they will most likely be extinct before 2030. The Sumatran rhinoceros is by far the smallest rhinoceros species, with the largest wild individuals rarely exceeding 1,000 kilograms, averaging about 850 kilograms. This species is also the hairiest rhinoceros and by far the most colourful, with both the hair and the skin coloured a reddish brown. Another reason this rhinoceros stands out is because it is the rarest species, being one of the rarest animals on Earth, as its population size is estimated to be only 40 individuals, and its population has shrunk rapidly over the past 4 to 5 years. Just like with the Javan rhinoceros, this animal's range has shrunk rapidly over the past century, and habitat fragmentation is the greatest challenge this species faces. As without wildlife corridors, this species cannot interact with other members of its own kind, and subsequently cannot reproduce. If this animal were to go extinct, it would have massive negative consequences on the rainforest they live in, as they and the Sumatran elephants have been nicknamed the gardeners of the rainforests, as they are the primary disperser of seeds of larger fruits. To conclude this episode, a world without rhinoceros would not be much of a world at all, as we would not only be losing an extremely iconic group of animals, but also a very ancient group of animals. Thankfully, this is unlikely to occur anytime soon, as three of the five rhinoceros species are pretty much safe from extinction for now. But we could definitely lose both the Sumatran and Javan rhinoceros within the next decade.